I had coaches who obviously like prescribed you the typical bodybuilding diet, 6-7 meals a day. It was good for bodybuilding. Definitely the gym that helped me in life, just build discipline and build structure. Because without that, I don't know where I would have been. When I don't eat and my body's used to it, I'm not starving for those first 8 to 10 hours in the day. Now I think it's been like 6 years that I've been fasting. Like I won't deny having drunk alcohol before I was 18 at school. So I don't think girls understand. Guys find it attractive when girls approach guys. Like you don't want to be in a relationship with someone where you feel guilty for doing what you love. What I find visually appealing is so different in different people, but obviously there has to be attraction initially. Being a man is the ability to be able to be less selfish, care for other people more than yourself. I mean, my dad, obviously, I'm not going to say he didn't make mistakes. I don't have any memories of other than being forced to do things that would actually benefit me. Every morning I write 3 studios by 2026. I'll finish off my journaling with that.
So Jesse, welcome to Navigating the 20s. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, let's just start because I've been following your page, I think, for a year now. And it's obviously you're a very fitness focused person, from the diet that you're taking, the long trail runs that you do, and obviously running a business. But maybe you can talk me through that, like what's inspired your fitness journey, if we just start there. Like, have you always been into fitness, training hard, doing, strength training as well as doing long runs?
So I definitely owe it to my dad, I would say, at least starting out. I mean, I remember being 7, 8, and he'll be like, okay, it's school holidays, come with me to the gym, go swim. I remember every Sunday he'll be like, okay, we've got a goal before church that my brother, he was older, so his amount of laps, I would let's just say it was like 80. Mine was maybe like 60 or whatever, and then my dad's was whatever.
Yeah.
And then he would just say, okay, in this next hour, we must do these many laps. And then from there, obviously he's playing a lot of school sport. Pretty much, I would say in terms of gym, like the swimming was on and off, going to gym every now and then.
Yeah.
Then when I was 13, I was really skinny because I was on Ritalin.
Yes.
And I just didn't eat anything.
Yeah.
And then fortunately, my mom was like, no, this Ritalin is doing more harm for you than good. Went off the Ritalin, got my appetite back. And then I was tired of being skinny because I was eating like 1 meal a day, if that.
Sure.
And I can't remember what I weighed, but I was maybe a little bit shorter than I am now, but really, really skinny. So then I just got into gym.
Yeah.
Obviously for sport, try to get bigger for rugby and all of that. And then I would say when I was 14, I probably went to gym like 5 times a week.
Jeez.
Because then I just enjoyed seeing the progress, seeing how the more I ate, the more I would get. Performance for rugby, being a bit stronger.
Yeah.
Through high school, and then I went to watch the bodybuilding show. It was the beginning of matric.
Yeah.
I watched the show, and I was like, this is really cool. Let me look for a show in 12 weeks. And this was in matric. So then I did 2 bodybuilding shows in matric.
Wow.
But the bug bit me. And then the next year, varsity, same thing, did a few shows. Competed for about 6 years. And then I just got bored of it. So that's when the running and the cycling and stuff came in.
Jeez.
So the gym for me has always been almost the bedrock of my training.
Yeah.
But there was just something lacking because it was so monotonous, always the same thing, especially with competitions. It's always like so isolated in what you do.
Yeah.
And the whole world, almost doesn't exist. And doing that for that amount of time, I lost the appetite to want to do it.
Yeah.
So I needed to introduce something else into it so that wouldn't fade away.
Yeah. And talk me through like your bodybuilding years. Like how did you manage to not like veer off, let's say start using steroids to get bigger? How did you stay disciplined to be like, okay, I'm in it for the sport. I still want to win, but I still want to value my body and make sure whatever I put into my body, my physique is still like a healthy response to competing like on a competitive level?
Well, definitely my parents were very against it.
Yeah.
So I think being a teenager and being amongst other boys, playing sports, obviously it's very enticing to go on steroids because you see people around the gym doing it, you see people in the fitness community doing it.
Yeah.
And also I was in matric. Everyone advised me against it at least, Being 18, people are like, if you're going to do this, wait. So that was also nice, getting good advice.
Yeah.
There were obviously people that said do it, but I think the biggest thing that stopped me was maybe the fear of, if my mom had to catch me doing it.
Yeah.
That was the biggest thing. I would probably have been disowned. So I think in matric, when I was, started competing, my mom probably I can't remember exactly, but she definitely would have had that conversation with me. It was like, you will not do anything that is going to harm you in the long run.
Yeah.
And so the fear of them, I would say, is number one. If I'm being completely honest, the fear of what they would do to me.
Yeah.
And then obviously being in matric, being at school, claiming that they're going to test us at rugby and stuff, which they never ever really do. But that also just put the fear in me of, I'm just going to get caught if I do this anyway.
Yeah, fair enough. And discipline, where does your discipline come from? Like, it's easy, because if I look at, like, let's say where you are now, you're running a business, and you're very athletic and you're doing a lot of things outside of that. Has that been like a formation from your school rugby years to competing? Because obviously as well with bodybuilding, there's a lot of discipline required in terms of diet, following the right workouts, and so talk me through that. Like, if somebody's struggling to be disciplined today, whether it's like following through with a diet or a workout plan or whatever the case might be, how did you ingrain discipline in yourself?
In school, I had absolutely no discipline.
You're kidding.
I had no discipline at all.
Really?
For schoolwork, never studied, never did any of that. I would say even with rugby in school, at least, there was no discipline. It was kind of, okay, well, you have to go to practice. But I remember when I was doing fitness, I hated every second of it.
Sure.
I hated the practices, other than maybe the community of being with like brothers. Other than that, I hated running. I hated doing the fitness. My dad always, I wouldn't say he forced me, but he really encouraged me to do athletics. I absolutely hated that.
Yeah.
So it was always, you have to do this. And because I was told I have to do this, I kind of pushed back and didn't want to do it. So I was a typical teenage boy that was being told by the school or by his parents to do something.
Yeah.
And that made me kind of not want to. And I just wasn't motivated because I saw I was able to kind of just coast through life with minimal effort and be able to do relatively well. Not amazing, but not badly. And it was kind of just, I don't have to push too hard. I can, skate through.
Yeah.
But then when I started competing, you can't cheat a diet. You have to do the diet.
It shows.
Yeah, it shows. And that is definitely the gym that helped me in life, just build discipline and build structure. Because without that, I don't know where I would have been, because I've never known my whole school career, I've never known what I want to do, what type of career or any of that. Didn't know if I wanted to play sport afterwards. Kind of just went to varsity because I got accepted. But the main focus was competing.
Yeah.
And then, so essentially mainly just the gym and the diet and seeing the effort that you put in, you see the results.
Yeah.
And then from there, in terms of business and, pushing and showing discipline in that way, I think maybe it's also, I saw how little work I did in school that I don't feel like I wasted my time there, but I think I could have done so much more if I really applied myself.
Yeah.
So now I don't want any time in my life where I will look back and be like, okay, well, I didn't try. I always want to make sure that in everything, as a grown-up who's able to make better decisions, that I am trying in absolutely everything.
Yeah. But don't you think if you had actually tried better, let's say at school, and maybe you're going to be like an A student and you would have then taken a path in like medicine or accounting. So do you believe like maybe it was constructed for you to walk this journey, this path, so that you would eventually end up where you are today?
No, absolutely. I don't like wish that I had worked harder. I'm very glad that everything has worked out the way it has, because I didn't try, and because I just got accepted and then decided to just go do it.
Yeah.
And I did a relatively easy degree. It allowed me and afforded me the time to start a business when I was in varsity and dedicate my time to training.
Yeah.
So absolutely everything in my life worked out perfectly. Obviously mistakes along the way, but I also don't even regret the mistakes, because everything does happen for a reason. And thinking now, I wish I'd done that. Wishing is not going to change the fact that I didn't do it or I did do it.
Exactly.
So all I can do now is just make sure that I make the right choices in the direction of the life I want to go.
Yeah. And then maybe I can get advice from you. I think you're so focused on fasting and dieting. when did you change, like, or let me put it this way, take me through when you were bodybuilding, what your diet was like, and whether there were like fundamental changes once you shifted out of that, and where you are now in terms of dieting, or let me not use the word dieting, but the way you eat. What's inspired the change in how you eat?
So I had coaches who obviously like prescribed you the typical bodybuilding diet, 6-7 meals a day, and then it was good for bodybuilding. It was fine. It was difficult, as it would be either way. But for me, it was just, a tiny meal for breakfast, and 2 hours later, another tiny meal, and then an hour later, another tiny meal. And I just didn't enjoy that. And it just felt like whenever I ate, I wouldn't feel satisfied at all with the amount that I ate, that I'm constantly thinking about the next meal, thinking about the next meal. You're counting down 35 minutes to my next meal. I can't wait. And I don't want to live my life like that. And then at varsity, I had a roommate who was Muslim, and he was obviously fasting for Ramadan.
Yes.
It is
Ramadan, yeah.
I'm second guessing myself there. So he was fasting. Obviously, he was doing like the water fast and everything. And I was like, okay, well, let me try the dieting part. Obviously, I still had water because I wasn't doing it for religious reasons. So I just did it with him. I wouldn't say I fasted as long as him because I was just starting out. So I was doing like 14 hours, 16 hours, just trying it out, seeing he still looked great while he was doing it because he was big into soccer and training everything. So I saw that you can still look amazing and fast. It's not detrimental to all muscle and, everything. So that awoke my eyes to fasting and just trying that and seeing, when I don't eat, and my body's used to it. I'm not starving for those first 8 to 10 hours in the day. And I just adapted to it. And now I think it's been like 6 years that I've been fasting.
Wow. And what do you say to people that are like, if you're trying to build muscle and you're trying to get bigger, like fasting is detrimental to that? And like for people that do long runs or like hectic cardio training that are like, you need to fuel before you go, how does that work for you?
The muscle aspect of it, it's definitely not going to create the most anabolic environment. Because, especially if you're training really hard and you're training hard in the morning and then you're not going to eat for the next 6-8 hours, your body might become more catabolic. But for me, so I would say if you're really trying to put on muscle, if you're really struggling to put on muscle, maybe don't fast. But you can then maybe have a breakfast and then have a 4 or 5 hour window, then maybe have your lunch, then have a 4 or 5 hour window. I mean, even the bodybuilding coaches that I had then, now I see that they're doing that similar thing where it's long periods between your meals, maybe not fasting, but have a meal at 6, then have another meal at 12, then maybe at 4 o'clock have a snack, and then at 7 have your dinner. So it's not, 6, 10, 12, consecutively like that.
Absolutely.
And then in terms of the endurance, I myself, if I'm doing, let's say, a long run on a Saturday, then I will eat before or at least every 45 minutes on the run. So I don't fast if I'm doing anything over 2 hours.
Makes sense,
So during the week, even like if I do a 21K, I won't eat. But if it's a race, different story, because I want to have maximum performance and energy.
Absolutely.
Then I would obviously eat. But I don't fast on like a marathon. I would never fast on that kind of day because you're just not going to have enough energy.
Absolutely. And I think it's so like, because I mean, I've like, let's say played around at the idea of fasting, because with Christians during Lent you fast for like 40 days, and it's got like so much strong benefits, like mentally what you go through, and you don't feel hungry all the time, whereas like I think in society now we're just ingrained like constantly eat, and that's really bad for like your insulin levels. So I think fasting is nice because your body then adapts to that.
I've definitely found. And I mean, the mental focus, I find I prefer, like I haven't eaten, it's 20 to 1 today. I haven't felt hungry yet, but obviously I am more accustomed to fasting. But I do feel less mental fatigue. Obviously, the later we go, maybe it'll set in because I haven't eaten for 16 hours or whatever. But at least initially, the first 8 hours of the day, I feel amazing. Once I eat, usually at 12, there's probably like an hour period where I feel more tired. I want to sleep, well, not want to sleep, but I feel more tired. Like that Sunday lunch type of feeling.
Like lethargic,
And I find when I do eat massive meals, tends to happen sometimes, but also depends on the meals. I find, and recently I've been reducing the amount of carbs I'll have maybe the first meal.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm cutting out carbs completely, but I'll prefer to have carbs at the evening meal because I can afford to feel a bit more tired.
Yeah.
Whereas like lunch meal, healthy fats and the protein doesn't make me feel that lethargic or tired or anything.
Yeah. And wait, so I've seen like you're very specific about what you eat to break your fast. You never like eat chocolate or be like, I'm going to get McDonald's. So for you, is it specifically that it has to be like healthy fats? You have high protein, either eggs, steak. What else goes on your plate?
So I probably have like 5 ingredients that I eat usually.
Yeah.
I kind of chop and change in between the proteins, but it's usually like beef, eggs. I would say if it's cheese, I would say it's like feta cheese or cottage cheese.
Yeah.
So beef, eggs, cheese, olives, and nuts.
Yeah.
Those are the only 5 foods I eat. I do, obviously, if I'm implementing carbs, I like couscous just because I'm lazy. It's easy just to boil the kettle and cook it like that. But I mean, if I do have carbs, it'll be couscous, potato. So anything that hasn't had any things artificially made or added to it for preservatives or anything.
And then are you consciously making the decision not to have vegetables? Or is that just the...
So like sometimes I'll make like a coleslaw where it would be like cauliflower and cabbage and like the Woolworths, like the coleslaw thing that you make with the... So like with that meal, I'll have the coleslaw. So I'll get my veg from there. I personally, if I'm somewhere, like last night I was at my parents' house for dinner and my mom made Brussels sprouts. Like it's not like I don't like Brussels sprouts. Yeah. It's just I don't like to go to the effort to make them. So I'm just, if I'm honest, a little bit more lazy in terms of that. But sometimes if I'm really hungry, and then I'll maybe cook broccoli or cauliflower because it's obviously high volume, low calories, and it keeps me fuller for longer. Yeah. So I'm not against vegetables, and I'm not. Like, we see on social media where it's like how bad the whatever thingies are that, defense mechanisms that the plants have. Yeah. Like I often will make, like I'll have a whole bowl of like baby spinach and then I'll put my avo in with that or the nuts or like a boiled egg and break up the egg and put it in there, make like a salad. Yeah. So I don't avoid it completely, but the days I'm not feeling too hungry, maybe I just won't have it. Yeah. And what informs like your research around that? I'm getting to a point where like I don't necessarily always just take my advice from social media, but the other day I think I just got overwhelmed where I was like, this guy saying don't eat this, don't eat vegetables, don't eat, like everyone's just on a don't eat this, and I'm like, what the hell are people supposed to eat? So I think we've all reached a point where it's just like Instagram is overwhelming with advice of what to eat and what not to eat. Yeah, it's difficult because people are posting things that are very polarizing to get views. And you'll see someone that's like, don't eat bread. I see those funny videos where the guy's like, okay, time to eat. And then you watch the video, don't eat bread. He's like, oh, can't have that. Yeah. Then you watch the same video, oh, can't eat eggs. Oh, take the egg away. Exactly. And that's basically, it's difficult because everyone is different. Yeah. I know for myself, dairy doesn't agree with me. So I avoid dairy. But some people, dairy might be fine for them. Yeah. Some people might not agree with an avo might not be good for them. Egg whites, they might be allergic to egg whites. Steak, they might not enjoy red meat, they might have to have more chicken. So I think it all just depends on person to person, and I've just tried to always do what works for me and do what I enjoy and how I feel the best. That's my main thing is like I know, but I still do it. But if I have a pizza on a Saturday, I do not feel my best. My stomach doesn't feel great. I don't feel as much energy. Like I just don't feel my best. So I know, okay, yes, maybe I'll allow myself a pizza after like a hectic workout or a run or whatever. But I know I'm not going to feel my best. So if I wouldn't have that, the night before a race. But some people do, and they're fine with having a pizza the night before the race. So it all just depends on person to person. Yeah, I think it's you touched on something very important. It's like so important to tune into your own body. Like I've seen the same, like I think, when was it, like 2 days ago I visited a friend and I was like, okay, because I'm a guest, I'll just eat whatever they want me to eat, and I ate, and then the next day I just couldn't run. I was like, my heart rate's going up, the heels, I'm struggling, you're feeling heavier. So like when you make those decisions, it's going to affect your performance the next day, and when the workout goes bad, like the rest of your day just goes, and it could have been completely preventable. So I think what works for other people doesn't necessarily mean that it would apply directly to you. Yeah, no, absolutely. absolutely.
Yeah. And another thing that's like important, like I think when it comes to training a lot, I've just, let me say, I was evaluating the other day that the last 10 years, I've been having like a on and off relationship with alcohol where I go through like two extremes where I'm like, I never want to drink again. I don't think I haven't been like drunk maybe in like 4 years. So I avoid getting drunk, but like, how are you navigating your relationship with alcohol? Do you still drink? Do you not drink at all? Because also what I saw is, when was it? I think like last week I was reading through how Lewis Hamilton was like, he's not going to be drinking anymore as well because he's looking for the 1% to maximize performance. And so obviously there's all this data around how alcohol affects your sleeping rhythm, your circadian rhythm, your sleep-wake time, and obviously liver and everything else that we're accustomed to knowing.
So with the bodybuilding and obviously starting at a matric, that was the biggest reason initially, at least. Mm-hmm. Like I won't deny having drunk alcohol before I was 18 at school.
Yeah.
But the moment I started competing, I couldn't, because the biggest thing in that time was obviously the calories, but more so the breakdown of, protein and muscle.
Yeah.
So that's why I avoided it then. I mean, I went on matric vac and I didn't have one sip of alcohol. So it was excessive. It was excessive, but I don't look back and I'm like, oh, I missed out, because I mean, I can have a matric vac any night I want in my life.
Point.
So I don't look back now and say, oh, I wish I drank. But that was, at least initially then, was, just trying to not break down any muscle. And then I enjoyed waking up the next day after, let's say, I went out. Yeah. And feeling perfectly fine. Yeah. So now, I won't say I don't ever have alcohol. Like, I'll still have some wine at dinner, but it will never be to the point where the next day I'll wake up and not be able to train. Yeah. Even if it's a rest day, because if you got a hangover, you don't want to have to eat healthy food.
Absolutely. You need like McDonald's fries or whatever.
So I just find it sets me back completely. The enjoyment of the night doesn't outweigh the setback the following day, the week afterwards. Because I mean, I'm 27 now. Yeah. I know even if I just get one bad night of sleep, even without alcohol involved, it's like 2 days to recover from that. Yeah. So that's why I mean, after a race, I'll still have a beer or whatever, like if they give you a beer. So it's not like I'm against alcohol. It's just, for me, I prefer to always be able to the next day go for a run, or to be hydrated, or so it's just personal preference in terms of how it affects me the next day, because it does affect me a lot.
Absolutely. I think maybe you had the advantage of going into bodybuilding, because if I look back, like, probably because I'm very competitive, like after I matriculated, then I could outdrink people, and I had lots of male friends, so we would go and like watch rugby or soccer and then like drink as many beers as possible. And then eventually I think I went through incidents as well, like I never want to feel like this again. But then it becomes difficult, like navigating clubbing and not being able to drink. And I think it's only maybe in my late 20s that I was like comfortable enough to be like, you know what, I'm going clubbing and I'm just having water. And if I want something else, I'll just have soda with nothing. So you go through different phases. And now I'm like, it's like I'll have alcohol on occasions, like wine tasting. But I'd never want to get drunk. Like my limit's like 2 glasses of wine and then that's it, because I know I can still function the next day.
And also you are fitter, so you do get tolerant. A little bit tipsier but easier.
That's true. So with friends and family, are you finding that you have enough time for your friends and your family? Like, if I had to use myself as an example, I find like you get so busy and you take it for granted. I think being able to keep up with people's lives on social media, we often think that it's okay if we don't touch base because we know what's happening in somebody's life. But do you have like a conscious way where you like slow down in life and be like, okay, let me touch base with my parents or some of my closest friends?
So it's difficult, because when, let's say, because obviously training and business takes priority, and not to the detriment of relationships. But let's say when I was training really hard and working on my business and I had a girlfriend, then maybe the friendship aspect suffers a little bit, because you only have time on, let's say, the weekend. So then you're just seeing your girlfriend. So maybe the family aspect or the friend, it kind of goes down a bit. And then now that I don't have a girlfriend, I'll be seeing friends every weekend and my parents almost every weekend. So I'm yet to be at the stage where I've perfectly aligned everyone and given everyone the right amount of focus.
Yeah.
But I think that's just kind of what life is trying to work out that balance.
Absolutely.
But fortunately now with my parents is I cycle a lot with my dad. So I'm in a very fortunate position where I'm able to spend, at least every weekend with him.
Yeah.
And, cycle for 3 to 4 hours with him. I'll take my dogs to my parents. So my mom would look after them while we're cycling.
Yeah.
And then I would see her for a little bit afterwards. Maybe we have lunch together. So then I'd spend time with her.
Yeah.
And then every weekend, because I'm constantly, working every night, on a Saturday night, I'll prioritize and be like, hey, this friend, do you want to come over for bride, go to their house or whatever?
Yeah.
So I'm focusing that time on them. But that's because I don't have a girlfriend or whatever. So if I had to have the girlfriend, the Saturday night would probably be spend more time with her, or she would come with to the friends.
Yeah.
So I'm yet to get that balance perfect. But there's never really a 2-week period where I don't see my family or my friends.
Okay, that's actually good. Like I think with me, it's been family. I was like, oh, family is always going to be there, and I put them in the back burner. And then like this December, I almost lost like somebody in my family that I was close to. And then that's when I was like, okay, like I need to reprioritize. So making more time for family. But when you speak about the dating equation, I think what I did, similarly to what you do with your dad, in the past, I used to be like, I'd prefer to date somebody who is into running or likes being in the gym, because then that can be like a shared bonding time. Then it's not like it's taking away time from stuff that I should be doing. And I don't have to choose between exercise and the person I'm dating, because we just mutually be able to do the same thing. So that's how I've often found synergy. But I also do like park run walks with my mom. She doesn't run, but like it's probably the closest. So like fitness is like, and the same thing with all my friends. I would just be like, let's go for a walk, let's go for a run, just so that you don't feel like you have to compromise on the exercise to see friends.
Yeah, and I think that's also the biggest thing is you don't want to have to, like, you don't want to be in a relationship with someone where you feel guilty for doing what you love. Yes, there needs to be, degrees of compromise and, a bit of give and take between, let's do maybe what you prefer, what I prefer, and chopping and changing between that. But it can never really be where, you have a Saturday morning, you can't maybe do a nice run during the week because of work, but now she or he or whatever is like, no, I don't want you to go run. I think we should sleep late in bed or something like that.
Yeah.
Where it's like, that's not going to work. So now with your relationships, have you been able to like pursue, or does it deter you away from pursuing it if they aren't, similarly aligned to you?
So to be perfectly honest, I haven't actually dated somebody who wasn't fit. My last ex, we used to do races together. So we would go, like, we would plan a holiday to Langebaan and then figure out, is there a marathon happening nearby, and then run the marathon. I have got on a date with a person that didn't know about Strava, and I won't lie, that just ticked me off. And I was like, maybe it's like the classist in me, because he said, oh, I work out. But then I was like, oh, what kind of person works out but then doesn't track analytics? So I was like, okay.
What type of training did he say he did?
So he was like, oh, I run. So I was like, oh, okay. I was like, okay, maybe it's a Strava thing. Maybe he's on another app. So I was like, well, what do you use to track? And then he was like, nothing. And so that turned me right off. And then I was like, okay, I guess that's a thing for me. Like, it's okay. Like, if I date a guy who's a cyclist, he's a swimmer, it doesn't matter as long as you're into some form of fitness and you actually care about improving, which I don't know if it's problematic in itself. Like, should it just be like, I just want a fit person? Why is it important to care about tracking metrics?
Would you say maybe then it's also the drive aspect of it, less than maybe, obviously sporty, but let's say maybe it's more just what the tracking represents.
Yeah.
The tracking of the run, or the tracking of the weights that you're lifting every week or whatever. I think it's also just he's serious about this and he's disciplined in this aspect. So I know in his work aspect, he's probably going to be similar. I know if there's work to be done within our relationship, he might do the same and allocate things that need to be changed or improved on.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that one, because it is that thriving for betterness, whereas if you're just working out for the sake of it, like, how do I know you have a similar drive, and how do I know you are able to do harder things? So if I know, like, you used to run 21s and now you've moved up to be like, I want to do 42s, so there's that gradual increase in performance. Because in my head, I think I'm like wired weirdly. I always said like a very romantic thing to do would be like to run the 4 marathons. So do like New York, Berlin. Like, I want to travel and go hiking, travel and do trail runs around the world. And so for somebody who's not into fitness, they're not going to understand that, right?
And what's interesting is because I've got given a lot of relationship advice from people, and they'll say, you know, maybe you mustn't go for a girl that is into the same things as you.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, but why? Why can't I have someone that we go on a holiday to go do a marathon or do those things that you mentioned, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's cool to be able to go to the Drakensberg, and while you're there, you know, you've planned out 3 hikes or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, what's wrong with that? Why does their standard of what a relationship should be have to match what I want in a relationship?
Yeah.
They're not in my relationship. I'm not in theirs. I'm not telling them that their relationship is bad, so they can't tell me that mine's bad.
Absolutely. I think I've heard, funny enough, I've received similar advice, and it's always like, people are like, you need a balance, so you need somebody else who's not like into, which, I mean, I've seen it at races, and I think it's not the same, like to have somebody on the sidelines versus somebody who's taking part in the activity themselves. And I think it could also be like a great way to grow together. So like, if I'm not a strong swimmer and my partner is, then like I go train with them, and you get like this bonding time of something that's difficult to do versus like, I don't know, sitting across from each other and eating pizza, and it's not doing hard things together. I think I've seen, I don't know if it's the same for you, an acceleration in personal development from like running and doing hard things and lifting weights and doing all of that. That's where most of my growth has taken place, and to be able to share that with someone, I think, is what makes it awesome.
Yeah, and I think also if that person isn't doing that, you know, you're progressing because you see, okay, when I put more effort into my running, my times improve. So that means if I put more effort into my work improves, my salary can improve. And if a person isn't doing anything in their life that is seeking that challenge and seeking that growth, you're going to grow and they're going to stay the same. And then, you know, you don't want to carry someone.
No,
you can, like, you don't have to have someone that's doing better than you.
Yeah.
But you just want someone that's pushing and trying their best. They don't have to be, you know, a marathon runner. Like, you know, if you going and doing a half marathon and they want to do the 10K, that's cool.
Exactly.
Because they previously could only do 5. They don't have to do as much as you.
Yeah.
But as long as they just have that drive in them to be better, they don't have to be super competitive, but they just need to try to be better than themselves.
Absolutely. And I guess whilst we are dating, what's your take with dating apps? Do you think there's still
So I've never used the dating app.
What?
Yeah.
At all?
Nothing. Closest thing is Instagram.
Oh my goodness. Okay, then your DMs must be
Not really. So I mean, I personally, I would say all my dates now, not that there's been many, but like 3 over the last 2 years have been like through Instagram.
Yeah.
But I've just always been against, and I think it's an ego thing.
Yeah.
It's definitely an ego thing if I look at it now. I don't want to seem like I'm desperate to find a partner. So
fair point.
Egotistically, I won't go on a dating site because I want people to look and be like, yo, Jesse's trying to find someone.
Yeah.
In my eyes, it's always, I will find the right person and they'll gravitate towards me.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of why I've been hesitant to go on the dating sites, and yeah, that's just the main reason.
Okay, fair point. I mean, like if I had to apply your, I do get Instagram DMs, but they're nowhere near. I shouldn't say that.
They're not quality.
They're
messages.
not what I want exactly.
Yeah.
Like it's always, and it's hard to say. Like I remember I was telling this one guy on my DMs asked me why I won't date him, and I was like, you're not what I'm looking for, and I like specified this and this, and he was like, oh, I can do that, and I was like, I'm not looking for somebody who can do that. I want somebody who's already doing these things. But for me, I've got like a weird thing. So like, I have used dating apps, and I've like had a long-term relationship as a result of dating apps, but these dating apps are like a long-term run thing.
Have you seen you can get to know enough of a person by their profile? And then is it often that you see this profile like, okay, cool, seems like a good guy. Yeah. Then you have the phone call and you're like, nah.
So this is what I do. I won't date somebody. Okay, well, I've changed it a little bit, but I would not date somebody who doesn't have a LinkedIn profile, because I would rather like stalk a person on LinkedIn than on Instagram, because I've realized what you'll have is like other people have like their Instagram handle, so you can go check that out, but then you end up like, I don't know, falling in love with the persona of the person. So LinkedIn is like work, and if you're active, I know like your thoughts, because you're going to post like what articles you're reading or whatever, so I know whether or not we'll get on. And then a phone call, based on that, I can tell like, is the person nervous? I mean, I've had phone calls with somebody where I was like, oh, can I just have a phone call with you? And they're like, I don't know what to talk about. And I'm like, if you can't talk to me over the phone, how are we going to talk like over dinner or whatever? And then my first date, I don't opt for like, I don't want to do a sit down date. I'll always be like, let's go, I don't know, to Delta Park and go for a walk. Or I'd be like, let's do a park run together. Because then like, I don't have to dress up, number one. So then that's like -1. And then number 2, you get to see a person in a more natural environment. It's not staged. It's not like we're both trying to impress each other. So it's worked, but I think there needs to be something else that commits people to go on dates, because everyone's just swiping to get matches and then there's no follow through.
Do you find that people are on the dating apps to find a partner, or is it still like the hookup culture in your experience? Like, do you match with someone, then you're like, oh, this guy just wants to hook up?
I think it's a bit of both. I think I like to think, maybe I'm a bit more optimistic, that people's standard is they want a relationship, but they're not getting that. And then the easiest, lowest hanging fruit is just to hook up. And then it could be that like some people hope like, okay, from hooking up, if it is a good hookup, then it becomes continuous. Then you're in a situationship, and then hopefully it grows into something. That's how it's been. And I mean, I don't want to criticize people that want to hook up. Some people are like, okay, relationships are too much. I don't have the capacity to be in a relationship. And so just hooking up is what works. Maybe you just want somebody every Friday to Sunday that, you know, you can be intimate with and then like share moments with, and that's it. So it's like, I guess it's the being honest with what you want and what you've got the capacity to give at whatever stage you're in.
But that's the tough thing with social media. You mentioned it, is that, you know, people also, they're putting on Instagram, they're putting on their persona that they want to be perceived as. Yeah. And oftentimes it's not that. And I've had experiences where, you know, I see a girl, obviously initially it's always based on attraction. Yeah. And then we'll go out and then she doesn't look anything like the social media pages. And then you're there, you kind of have to just commit to the date.
Wait, like when you say they don't look anything, do you mean like it's because they put on so much makeup, or like it's a catfish? Filters.
So like not like a complete catfish. Yeah. So it's not like I'm seeing a girl and then when I meet her in person, it's a guy. Yeah. So it's not like a serious catfish, but you can see it's the same person. Yeah. But it's, you know, I've often seen a lot of girls use like the same type of filter thingies where it's, you can see aspects from one girl's photo completely the same to another girl. Yeah. Because they're using some sort of face tuning type thing. And then they're attractive. Because, I mean, those apps, you can change the size of your eyebrows, change the size of your nose, increase your jawline. So you can do so much. Yeah. And completely change how you look. Yeah. And then you meet them in person and then you're just like, no, this isn't the same person.
But do you know what? In the same breath, I don't use filters, but I've had instances where somebody has like stalked my Instagram page so much, like they could say like when I was here or whatever, they could probably like recall all my pictures, and then I realized like, oh, this person's like in love with my Instagram persona, and that's not me on like a 1-to-1. So it's like you like sitting in a date and you're competing with Instagram, Zintle, and like the real, and then you feel like you fall short. So I feel like at any level, whether it's you've got filters or like you publicly perceive yourself to be a certain way, you're always going to fall short of that image, which is why it would be nice to actually meet somebody who doesn't know you on Instagram, because then they get to meet you organically. Like, what do you like when you wake up in the morning? What do you like? Actually, what I always think at the back of my head, I'm like, the most authentic people that would meet me are like runners and gym, because I'm just me. So if I'm struggling through a hill, you'll see it. Like I'm not,
Yeah, to meet them at a park run or to meet them at the gym. But also approaching someone at the gym, like how do you do that? You're a girl, so obviously you would, like girls don't really approach guys.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how would you respond? Like let's say, but also if it is someone that you truly do find attractive, you're not going to mind.
Yeah, exactly. It's I guess it comes down to whether or not you find the person attractive. To be honest, I've made moves on guys. I don't mind doing that.
Explain your moves. Like how does a female?
Yeah.
So I'll explain the male moves, and then you explain first like how
I make a move.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one time I used to work. I'm not actually going to say I used to work in this place, but it was huge. So we shared. It was a huge office park space. And then I'd always see this guy like downstairs in the canteen, and like he'd smile, but he wasn't making a move. And I think this went on for a month, and I was like, you know what? The next time I bump into this guy, I'm gonna like ask him out, or like I'll say something. So then I was coming down from the 21st floor, and then he joined in on the 15th, and we're going down. There's 4 other people in the lift, so I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't know. I'm just gonna like shoot my shot, see where it lands. So I was like, here's my number. Like I'm available tomorrow. I think it was first Thursday or whatever. So I was like, I'm available tomorrow to go out for first Thursday if you want to join me, like, you know. And then everyone in the lift clapped, right? So guy took.
That's brave. Like that's good.
Yeah, it was the worst day.
It's tough but also I don't think girls understand that guys find it attractive when girls approach guys.
Really?
Yeah, guys. I mean, if the guy finds the girl attractive, obviously, if it's a girl that you want to be approached by, you know, guys like, she's actually brave enough to do it, or she's not entitled that she has to be approached, you know, like that guy. For me, I think that's attractive, even if I don't find the girl attractive and she is brave enough to do it. It's like, good for you, that's awesome. You know, it's you're slightly more attractive in my eyes by just approaching me. But
you don't find it emasculating like some men think it's.
I think it's awesome.
Okay.
I think, I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's a compliment. If someone's approaching you, it's a compliment. So I don't know, I've never, well, I wouldn't say, I don't think I've been, but also as a man, because you're not used to women approaching you as often as what men approach women, you think if like a girl comes and talks to me about something, you automatically assume, no, she's not hitting on me or whatever, she's just talking or asking or whatever about something. You know? For me, in terms of approaching a girl, I find it tough. I wouldn't approach. I would maybe try and make eye contact. If she immediately looks away, then I'll be just like, okay, she's not interested.
But how do you know? That's hard, because some people get shy, so then they look away because like you.
So I would, let's say, throughout the session, try to see if she's looking, try and make eye contact. If she never looks, then she's not really interested, or she's got a boyfriend or whatever. But you just get that feeling from someone, you know, when you look at them in the gym, like, okay, that person is relatively keen, or they keep looking in my direction or whatever, then I would. But if I look at them and then they look away, or I can never catch them looking at me, then I kind of just wouldn't try.
Fair enough.
But if it's someone that's exceptionally amazing, then I would just, even if they haven't looked at me, I'll be like, nah, can't waste this opportunity.
You gotta go guns blazing. I think dating is so tough. Like our parents probably had it a lot easier than what we do, because it's like you're competing on so many levels.
Just last night, my mom, I was leaving their house, and then some lady was cycling, and then my dad was like, check that girl. And then, typical dad. And then I was like, oh no, because I immediately saw that she wasn't my type. And then my mom's like, Jessie, you're so fussy. And then later on, she messaged me and she's like, if you're so fussy, you're never gonna find the right girl. If your dad was so picky, he wouldn't have ever chosen me. Which is, but I'm picky, but it's not that bad that I'll never find anyone.
What's your criteria?
So obviously, I can't explain what I find visually appealing. Like, what I find visually appealing is so different in different people. But obviously, there has to be attraction initially. And then the second, I would say initially, obviously, attraction. Because you don't want to kiss someone you don't find attractive.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's standard. Then personality trait. I would say the biggest thing is drive. Drive, and doesn't have to be super disciplined. But drive to be better than herself. Then good communication skills. Maybe, I would definitely say drive's the most important, because doesn't have to just have drive to own her own business or that kind of stuff. But if she's employed by someone, she wants to be the best employee she can be, or she wants to improve, or she wants to just be better at what she does. So that sort of aspect of drive doesn't have to be like trying to be a female Elon Musk or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And then a good conversation. I really like. I just love talking.
Yeah.
So I want to be able to sit on a Friday afternoon and just talk for 4 hours.
Sure.
You know, like I want someone like that, who can hold a conversation and is vulnerable enough to analyze themselves. The last girl I was with, and it was really nice. You know, we'd spend like 4 hours just talking about, like, we'd maybe talk about an annoyance that she had, and then we'll try to relate that to her childhood, and we'll go into like, okay, why did she respond like that? And then if I did the same, so then she would ask me questions like, why do you think you did this? So that was a really great communicative relationship. So I think that's definitely something that I would like in a relationship. It's like she doesn't have to be into running, but definitely a sort of fitness activity. So that's definitely like someone I can't. It doesn't have to be on the same level as me, because there won't be many girls that want to run 100 Ks, like, which is fair, which is completely understandable. But she should want to at least look after herself for herself. It doesn't even have to be for me. It must be for her.
Absolutely.
To feel more confidence and feel more powerful, because everyone does. The healthier you are, the more you look after yourself in terms of training, you do feel better, you do feel more confident, and you feel happier in life in general. So I think those are the main things.
But your criteria doesn't sound picky. I'm like evaluating, but I think maybe it is hard that you're not gonna. Let me say it's rare that you're gonna find somebody that ticks all the boxes.
And I think that initial box of attraction, is, yes, I find different styles of people attractive, but there's very few that are attractive enough to want to be with, type of thing. I completely get where you're going with that. Say I want to get to Burn Studio, but before that I want to check something with you. So at what age do you think you become a man? It's a hard question to ask, and do you think you've got it figured out? Like, what does it mean to be a man in this day and age? And if one day, let's say, you get married and you have children, what does it look like, the responsibility? Do you think you would still traditionally opt to being like a provider and a protector for your family? So I don't think there's any age you become a man. I think it's more a mindset and a belief system that you implement in your life. Because there's 40-year-old boys, you know, yes, they're men in age, but they're not mature enough. I think the biggest thing that makes you a man is maybe the emotional maturity to be able to be less selfish, to be able to, you know, it doesn't have to be provide in the sense of I'll make more money, but provide for your family in the sense that you make sacrifices for your family. You're not selfish. I think the biggest thing is maybe just there's more important things than you as a person. So in that sense, I don't think I'm a man yet, because I can't. If I had a kid now, obviously I would have to then become a man, and I know I would be able to sacrifice a lot for a kid. But right now, my current state, I don't have to sacrifice for anyone really, other than maybe sometimes sacrificing for friends, seeing them as opposed to working or whatever. So, but that does make me a better person. But I think being a man is the ability to be able to be less selfish, to care for other people more than yourself. So, and also the emotional maturity of, you know, you could be the breadwinner, you could be the father, but if you don't have the emotional maturity to see how your actions affect the kid, then you're also not a man. You know, you could get angry, and you don't have to abuse anyone, but you can shout, you can hit things, and that's not being a man. You know, a man is the ability to be like, okay, well, I'm a flawed human being. I make mistakes, and I need to own up to them. And, you know, most people, they'll look at their mistakes that their parents made. But then they might not make the same mistakes, but they make other mistakes because they think, or they're not emotionally mature enough to be able to deal with certain emotions. So I think the biggest thing is maybe being open and vulnerable enough to express their darkest issues is maybe the most, like, the vulnerability of emotion is maybe what sets men apart from boys.
Sure, I actually like that definition, because like I think that's like very key, because if you want like a very let me say, strong relationship, it's the ability to take that barrier down and to be able to be emotionally vulnerable. But if you haven't work through the things that you need to work through, nothing works out. So even like your romantic relationships, and like you rightfully said, once you have a child, you need to be able to have that emotional awareness. Like, if I'm going to shout at this child, this is the ramifications it might have for them. So it's a lot of like introspection, going probably into your childhood wounds and figuring out like what are the things that I need to process and work on. Then I guess being a man is a continuous journey, because I have friends that are fathers now, and they're like, there's stuff I thought didn't bother me when I was a kid, and then now that I've got a child, and I'm having to work through these things because of my little boy, or whatever the case might be.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is I've seen, fortunately, I mean, my dad, obviously, I'm not going to say he didn't make mistakes, but I don't have any memories of, other than being forced to do things that would actually benefit me.
Yeah.
So, like, those are the only things where I'm like, yo, why is this guy so, like, strict or whatever? Like, those are the only things where I'm like, he could have eased up on, but it was never situations where, like, I saw him act in such a bad way that I have then taken late into life. But like friends, people, like family or friends or whatever that I've seen, where I see the dad, I see how he interacts with someone maybe at the gym.
Yeah.
Then I see the son.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, you got this from your dad. I can see that.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like getting upset about such small things, and then you can see the kid doing it. And that's where, like, yes, everyone gets upset. But if you overreact because that taxi driver cut in front of you, and your kid's in the passenger seat, and you do that all the time, and you shout and swear and whatever, that kid's going to carry on that, you know, way of thinking.
Absolutely.
And you don't know that kid could already have some aggressive issues, and then he now then becomes abusive later. So I think the biggest thing is just to try and manage your emotions, because especially around kids and how receptive they are to like observational learning and thinking like, oh, well, my dad reacts like this, I think it's okay to react like this.
Absolutely, yeah. Because then you normalize certain behaviors. And because we're almost coming to a close, I've seen you work out a lot in the burnt clothing brand, which is like phenomenal and everything. Can you talk me through your relationship with them? So
I was approached by them to basically like almost be like an ambassador. So then they just, I've got like a link or whatever that people can shop Burnt through my Instagram bio, and then I'll get commission on sales through that, and then they'll send me like new clothes for launches and everything. And initially when I got into fitness, you know, I would take any sponsorship I could get.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone does it. It's like, oh, free supplements, oh, free this.
Yeah.
And I always saw I was promoting and making other people rich. I don't want to just promote and make other people rich. I want to have a partnership with these people where I get money from also the promotion that, you know, I'm putting out there. So I would say like 3 years ago, I came to a decision where I'm like, I'm not going to take on any brands. I'm not going to take on any sponsorships. And actually in doing that, I actually got offered a lot more, which was nice. You know, the more people I was turning down, the more offers I was getting for certain things.
Yeah.
Not that there was tons, but, you know, like a smaller company would approach me. Whereas previously I'd be like, okay, cool, yeah, I'll get like 1,000 rands worth of clothing, that's cool. But there was like no monetary kickback or like annuity or anything that came from that. So I always just hold back with that. And then Burnt came up with a, you know, offer that was very good, and also believed in the clothing because of the quality of the clothing and the community that the brand represents, and, you know, the whole ethos and everything. I just aligned with the brand. Yeah. And I liked the people behind the scenes, and I really enjoyed, you know, talking to them online. When I've seen them in person, I really enjoyed that. So it was more, you know, these are the kind of people that I like. Yeah. And, you know, I get some monetary value out of it, and then can try to promote the community around what they do.
Absolutely. And I think it's nice because it goes well with your own personal brand. So it's really important to, let me say, affiliate yourself with brands that actually work with your own personal brand. So I think that's a nice partnership. And then also, if you could give me like an overview of what you do. So you run Jesster Studios, you've got the partnership with Burnt. What else is on your plate?
So my main source of income still today is my marketing company. So we got a marketing company. Our niche market is actually in the beauty aesthetic industry. So we do all their marketing, social media, websites, graphic design, everything for like beauty salons, like hair removal, fat freezing, fat dissolving injections, like all those places that do that kind of stuff, facials, eyebrows, like all places do different things.
Sure.
But most of our clients are in the beauty industry. And then obviously I've got this podcast studio where we are now, where we have the space, like what you're doing right now, is renting out the space, and we provide the equipment. And then initially my first business was an online trainer, personal trainer, and that I still do on and off every now and then. But because of the other businesses, time allocations, I coach maybe 5 people a month now. Some months I just tell people, I'm like, sorry, I can't. And then fortunately, if the studio in December was more quiet, then I can pick up a little bit of the online training. So those are the main 3, and then obviously my own podcast, but that's just like a passion. It's just enjoying talking to interesting people.
Sure. And where do you see yourself going in the next coming years with?
So in terms of goals, I've definitely mainly only set goals for the studios. So having 3 studios of every day in my journal, every morning I write 3 studios by 2026. I finish off my journaling with that exact thing every single. Hopefully you watch this in 2026. Like I say, yes, it worked. But so 3 studios, Cape Town, and then maybe Durban or Pretoria, depending. Probably Pretoria would be the better one. I mean 4 if you can do Durban as well. But my goal is to have the premium podcast facility in the country, so that when people think they want to start a podcast, they're like, oh well, Jesster Studios. It's like a franchise almost, where there's just one everywhere. Like even if there's 2 in Joburg, because Joburg is definitely big enough for it.
Definitely.
So business wise, that's definitely where I wanted to go. And then my personal podcast, I always set goals of being like the South African Joe Rogan. But I know if you try and work hard in every aspect, it kind of just, you'd be mediocre everywhere. So my biggest focus now is the studios, and just doing my podcast, trying to do 1 a week and just see where it goes from there. Not really putting any pressure on it, because I can't focus on my training and 3 different businesses or whatever and have everything on an excellent level.
And for your own personal brand as Jesse?
I'm just posting content that hopefully can inspire and help people, because I don't know if you felt the same, where you look back in your life and you just think was I on autopilot? Was I having any thoughts about what I was doing? Was I actually concentrating on decisions I was making? Was I in some matrix or whatever? What was I thinking? If I look back at maybe before 2 years ago even, I have some thoughts of actual conceptualization of things, but most of my life I just look back on and I'm like, did I really think that deeply about anything? So I think that's what I'm trying to help people with, and that's also for myself. It's less about maybe the personal brand, but more just the personal development as a person, to become the best version of myself and hopefully help people along the way.
When you spoke about that, that's so surreal, because I also realized, I think I had a good 3 years where I was on autopilot, but I think in life you go through that, you're either in survival mode or you're trying to make things happen, so you don't have time to process. And so I'm in the phase now where I'm I still gonna do a lot of things, but I want to slow down and be more intentional about being in the moment of things. Why am I doing this? What's happening? So that it doesn't feel 3 years went by and you don't even know what was happening.
I think that's the biggest thing also is, there might be a misconception about presence and being in the present moment. And people think, well, then you can't set massive goals and dream, but you can. You set goals, but you working on what is in front of you right now, because the future doesn't exist. I mean, the past doesn't even exist because it's gone.
Exactly.
All you have is right now. So work on those goals in the future, but enjoy right now, because achieving that goal, whatever, is not going to make you happier or make you whatever. Your happiness is your state of mind right now. So set goals, sure, because you want to improve and you want to grow, but focus on just being present in what you're doing. I mean, how many times have you been running and you're thinking about finishing the run, or you're running and thinking about, okay, I need to prepare for that meeting, and it's just but what's it going to change? Just do the run now. Focus on the run now. Exactly. Be present in the run. Us talking about this while we're in the podcast, while we're talking,
Yeah.
we can have a better conversation if we're truly present than thinking about, okay, well, in the next half an hour, your next guest is going to arrive.
Yeah.
And you think about that. Then there's actually, you're just focusing on the next thing, the next thing, the next thing.
Exactly. Yeah. It's weird when you say this with runs for me. Like I used to do that, like plan on the run, and then now, or actually let me say the last 2 years, I'm just like, I use runs as my meditation. So it will start off like a lot of things are in my head, like I need to do this and this, and then it eventually gets quiet. And if you're in the zone and it's quiet, then those are like the most optimal, magical runs.
It's the best run. Your heart rate goes down.
Yeah.
You get in the zone, yeah.
Yeah. And second last question before we wrap up, what is driving you?
I have this, I don't know, honestly, I have just this need to push.
Yeah.
Like I've given it thought, and I've always thought, like, is it to make someone proud? Is it to have the world think I'm special? Or I've always thought, like, what is it? And I've tried to like go deep into like, is it a deep-seated insecurity of seeing my dad succeed and really wanting to be better than him or be equal in his eyes? Or is it because I didn't push at all in the first 18 years of my life? Is it kind of compensation to show? See, like I definitely think the biggest thing that I've been conscious of is I never want to be seen, because my whole high school career I felt like I was seen as being dumb. Or at least that was also, maybe it wasn't even thought like that.
Yeah.
I thought of like that. But because my marks weren't good, because I wasn't trying, I always thought, no, people are going to think I'm dumb. So maybe it's just that drive as well of I don't want people to think I'm incapable of anything. Or it's, I think I can do anything. So I want to show the world that I can, so that their view of me matches my own. So there's just so many reasons, but I just feel like when I'm not working, I'm not as happy.
Yeah.
So my drive is just happiness through work, I think.
I think that is true, because I could apply some of the things that you're saying. I think it's a combination of different factors. Like I also went through a journey where I was like, I'm trying to identify the main source, and then I realized that it's not just one thing. It's like a combination. And I once had a mentor who was like, you must ask yourself, are you running away from something or are you running towards something? And I realized some of the biggest achievements that I had was because I was running away from something, and then sometimes it's because I'm running towards something. So it's a pull between dark and light. It's not
I think
always...
to be able to use them to be able to achieve is a good thing.
Absolutely. And then in closing, because we reached the end of our conversation, because our viewers are people navigating their 20s, if there's 3 pieces of advice you could give somebody navigating their 20s, what would you say?
Don't do anything for anyone else. You know, we've got these family expectations of us, or these peer views of how we should live our lives. And I think the most happiness I've found is just doing what I want to do. You know, not in the sense that what I want to do is I just want to go out and drink. Like, that's not what I mean. But I mean, like, if you have a goal of being an artist and you know, your parents are like, no, maybe don't, because there's no job security in it. Or your friends are like, come on, we studying this degree, just stick with this. Like, the biggest thing is just not doing what other people and following their expectations. Because I think it's your life. It's not anyone else's life. Living for someone else isn't any benefits. And large portion of the time, they want to keep you down, and they want to make sure that you aren't rising above them. So they project their fears onto you when they talk you out of something. Trying to think. Second is also just to not put so much pressure on yourself and be patient. I think that's the biggest thing I had to learn, was not be like, okay, I started my business now, I have to make R1 million in the first year. Like, just be patient, because things do take time to grow. And also in terms of the patience, it can kind of tie in for tip number 3 is don't compare yourself. Like, don't be envious at all. Try as best as you can not to like look at someone else on social media and be like, that guy's 26, I'm 27, look at his businesses, how come I'm not there? That person got a promotion, I just got my first job, why aren't I there? I think that's the biggest thing, is just it steals all happiness out of life, is comparing yourself to someone else. Because if you don't know what they went through, you don't know the connections that they had to maybe get it. And I saw, it was an interesting quote, it was, you can't be envious of someone else, because you have to trade absolutely everything in your life to have what they have. So if there are aspects of your life that you love, that you aren't willing to trade, then you've already got more than what they've got, because you're not willing to give those up to have what they have. So then there's no point in being envious, actually, at the end of the day.
And that brings us to the end of this episode. If you enjoyed our conversation with Jessie today and you'd like to continue the conversation with us, we are on social media. You can find us at Navigating the 20s on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and on TikTok. Do message us and let us know what your views are and how you are navigating the first half of this year. And remember that we would love to hear how you're finding this podcast. So please be sure to rate us on your various podcast platforms and let us know if you are enjoying this show. Most importantly, it would be awesome if you can give us a rating so that we can continue to bring you content that is informative and entertaining. So this has been Navigating the 20s. Be sure to look out for our newsletter, which drops sometime this week on a Wednesday. From me, Zintle, remember to keep navigating the 20s.